Hello there. Thanks for joining me. Today's going to be short and sweet with a little bit of love thrown in there. Doing it from the home today because the signal is so much better here than it is at my office. We need to work on that Pittsfield Dalton line, get a little bit more signal, much like other areas of Berkshire County that could use some, heck, even use internet. So I guess I shouldn't be complaining about the signal we do have. So this week, I hope you're feeling a little bit less anxious, stress, whatever the other vibrations were that were flying around last week. They're still pretty high right now, and in all likelihood will be for the next 4 or 5 weeks. Just lots of changes happening energetically. There's a lot of openings, a lot of decisions about who we want to hang out with, and where we're heading in life. And those things are always there because we tend to hit them at very different levels and different times. But right now, the push to make some decisions, both from an energetic level and from a moral level and from our, hopefully within your own heart, are there. I think we should always be taking that inventory of what lines up with us and what doesn't. But I tend to be very proactive there. Not everybody wants to do it. So this week, the difference between like and love, one of the things that if you get the newsletter, you'll see that it's in there. And what I described was like, you know how when you meet someone and you can feel that connection there and you can talk for hours and you just never miss a beat and you seem to be so aligned and you really just click with a person. And then you start saying, well, I really like them. I like hanging out with them. I like what, maybe what they bring to my life, and hopefully I can bring something to theirs. And you start building that relationship and the connection, and we have this mindset that like then grows to love. And what I have watched in a lot of relationships, and including my own, but people who I work with, is that we're moving so quickly into love, and I think it's lost a little bit of its romance. I feel like it's lost some of its value in that all of a sudden we love everything and that we are throwing it around there as, an adjective rather than the verb that I believe it's intended to be. So we then get into that love space, and I feel like we forget that like is equally important, because like is talking about where you are within yourself, like what energy is known. Like love, I feel like comes about. It's an expression. It's an example or an offering of our own vibration. And I really believe that we are infused with love when we're born and as we come in as a soul, and that we do love everybody as a soul, and then in a human experience that hopefully gets enhanced, but we've seen where that's not always true. So where I feel like it gets challenging is when we're in these relationships that perhaps it is a romantic relationship and you've moved past the like into what you believe is love. That doesn't happen in 2 weeks, people. Like, let's stop doing the drive-through thing, okay? Let's take some time to build relationships, to really get to know a person. Move through 6 months or so that you can see patterns and you can see what the other person has to offer. And yes, I believe in instant knowing and attraction and all of that, but I also think due diligence is making sure that whatever you or the other person is bringing to the picture is valid, it's authentic, and it's willing to grow. So the difference between the love and the like is that you can love someone and not like them. And I have seen where the opposite isn't true. Like, you can like someone and not love them. I think that's very possible. So the part where I see a lot of people having a challenge with, especially lately, as they're deciding what course to take in their life and what people that they want to be around, and then seeking those higher vibrational frequencies to be with. And seeing a lot of people struggle with this, that they're not liking the people that are in their families or that they've married, their children. That one's very difficult, but I feel like it's so freeing to be able to say to ourselves that I love you as my child, as my spouse, as the collaborator that we've been in this lifetime. But whatever has changed in personality of either one, maybe that like isn't as evident, and maybe you've just grown in different directions. The freedom and the ability to be able to say that I am no longer resonating with this person, I feel like frees you. It takes the pressure off, and it may allow you to ascertain if you really do want to still connect with them. Where it gets tricky is people blame themselves for no longer liking someone, and I find that they tend to forget to take inventory. So they forget to consider the fact that there may be data to prove, or data, if some of you say, I never really know the difference, so DATA, in, perhaps someone isn't speaking to you kindly, and there's no reason to put up with that. There is no reason to believe there's something wrong with you if another person is talking to you rudely, and it's perfectly okay to say, I don't like your behavior, and eventually get to the place where you say, I don't like or want to hang out with them anymore. Because if you don't listen to that, what happens is everything lands at home, everything comes back to self, and then you start to not like yourself because you're changing who you are, perhaps, to be with them. Hi, ladies. Thanks for joining. Lord Magoon, nice to see you. In live time. Always nice to see you, but nice to see you in live time. So what I'd like to encourage is for you to be open to yourself and have those honest conversations about whether you like a person, like their constitution or the way that they're in their life. This isn't about passing judgment, okay? I'm not saying do your inventory and decide that the other person is less than or has issues or whatever. I'm simply saying take a little bit of time to look at whether you're in resonance with someone or not, and then look at your own self. Maybe you don't like you this week. There have been certainly days where I have wanted to get away from me, and if I could figure out how to unzip that and leave her somewhere and then go about my own business, it'd be so refreshing, just to get that little bit of space. So it's worth the process of checking in with yourself constantly over your lifetime, because relationships will shift. And I've seen people try to hang on to relationships because they knew them since kindergarten and they were hanging on to them because of the history, but they weren't taking into consideration how the other person was speaking to them. And this happens a lot with siblings. We change, we grow. And if you think back to the old days where we lived in a cave, we had to break out. We had to go to different villages and stuff to diversify the DNA. So there's some places where just because you're in the same family and you ended up with a sibling unit does not mean that you are hooked at the hip to them. And I I embrace family. I greatly respect family, and I even marvel at the families who do have that connection and who have been able to maintain it because there's respect within the relationships, that people grow, they're different. We see things from uh, our experiential perspective, where we all break out and go into different relationships and stuff. I've been amazed at the families that are able to do that, or the friend units that are able to do that. Where I've seen it cause damage is those that feel like they have to stay in it with those that are maybe stuck in the past and still see you as that 12-year-old, or don't value your opinion, who are, condescending in any way, or that ribbing or poking. So if you are connected enough with yourself, when you've had a good time, right? The people you want to hang out with. And I'm not suggesting that we dump people right away, but we can have conversation, and be open to hearing something about ourselves that maybe we knew we didn't like about ourselves, but someone else is brave enough to say it to us. We have to be able to do that too. So it's not about walking away or not working in a relationship. It's about knowing what is within you, and are you allowing poor behavior because you think you're supposed to? And I see it a lot with adult children who have put up with the parent who was abusive their whole life. And they're starting, when we round those corners of 30s and 40s and creeping up on 50 here, where you start to see, wait a minute, I've had this life experience too, and I can be open to, what other people say. How come the others in my life can't be? It's difficult with a parent. It's difficult with your child, but it's worth it if you want to have the type of relationship with yourself and then bring that out into the world. And Joanna, I agree. She said there's a line from Mrs. Doubtfire that recently brought clarity to a relationship. I just don't like myself when I'm with you. And that goes to the place of, we'll start resenting who we are or how we're acting, because maybe we've grown, maybe we've expanded and we have a new perspective about how we want to be in the world. And some don't like that. So we fall into old habits, right? Or old behaviors. And it takes a lot of strength and courage, I think, to know who you are, to stand in who you are, and see what happens there. So what I'm asking this week is that you be honest with your relationships, and do a little bit of looking at them, and deciding if you feel like you resonate with the person when you're with them. And this includes doctors, lawyers, coworkers, and you do not need to announce to a person that you are assessing whether you like them or not. I wouldn't recommend that. But you do, in all fairness to everyone, want to look at the whole picture. Who are you when you're meeting with that person? Is there something in the dynamic of your relationship that causes you to be less than magnanimous? Do you have a hard time being neutral? So and there's also another great thing to look at, that if you find yourself having a contrary reaction to someone, don't place it all on them. take your part of the responsibility, but also look to see if there's someone in your background that you dealt with maybe decades ago or growing up that annoyed the you know what out of you, but you didn't have the voice or the words or the concepts to speak of it, or maybe scared you or bullied you, and you're bumping into that type of energy again. It's not always the person that you're dealing with that causes the reaction within you. More often than not, it's your memory of something that's in there that maybe you just don't know where you put it. So as you go through this and you're asking yourself, do I like me? First and foremost, start with the relationship with yourself. And if there's anything that comes up there that you don't, perhaps look at it and say, how can I enhance who I am? How can I arrive at a place where I'm so willing to see my shit that I work on it, and then I look at the relationships around me. But if you have someone that you can't decide what it is that frustrates you about them or the relationship that's going on, just look a little bit in the past and see if there's something there that hasn't been dealt with yet. Because sometimes if you deal with that, the person that you're having the issue with is a non-issue. It becomes, oh, they're not as annoying or they're not as triggering because you've actually dealt with it. So most of our interactions are going to come back to, do I feel strong enough within myself that whatever's going on around me doesn't shake me? And that comes from not only learning how to love yourself, because there's a lot of talk of loving self, but that liking who you are, like genuinely appreciating who and what you've become, and then where you're going, because we're all going to keep growing. So when you look at those in your life this week, also look to see what you do like about them, because that helps to build your awareness about what are the qualities that are really important. And if we take a little bit of time doing this, it's so easy to use that law of attraction and to bring people into our lives that are already there. Like there's no training involved for either one of us. So I really wish for everyone on this planet, in this universe, and all the universes I don't know about, that we will all arrive in a space where we like ourselves so much that if we're in the company of others where the treatment isn't respectful or honoring both ways, that we exit stage left. We do it nicely and we bid goodbye. So this may include family of origin. It may include partnerships. And it's tough to have that conversation. But when the sense of self, the love, and the really liking who you are is there, it's so much easier to have the conversations because you're not in their space or their energy or what they might do with it. You're willing to deliver it kindly, always kindly, and then hand it off and they can do what they wish with it. So this week, look at what you're liking, what you're not liking, looking at and giving permission to, I can love myself, I can love others, and I may not like them. I know there's some talk about, well, you just don't like their behavior. No, sometimes you don't like the other person, and that is really okay. And we need to listen to our kids when they're bringing that to our attention too, that they don't like another person. You don't have to like everybody. Someone else will like that person. It's fine. But start looking at that this week, because when all that stuff is cleared up, I promise you it's working in the back of your head anyway. You may as well bring it to the front, address it, and then clear up any static that's in there. Okay? I mostly like you guys. No, kidding. I really do. Gotta keep the humor. I hope you like you. And I'm gonna go like the woods right now and go for a run. So I hope you have an amazing weekend. And send in any ideas that you have, any topics you'd like me to cover, and happy to do that. And thank you so much for all of you showing up, and the hearts and the pictures. So much fun. I will see you later.